I just woke up and today I want to talk about work-life balance. I just woke up, I washed my face with water and I put a little, I don't know, there's some redness here and here. So I just put a bit of some tea tree oil. Yes, that's the secret. Every time I feel like there's a pimple popping or there's a spot, then I just put tea tree oil and 1 or 2 days later it's gone. So grateful for that. But today I want to talk about work-life balance because I read something yesterday and also I had a very, very strange dream of a person I never talk to anymore. So that was weird. Anyway, what I read yesterday talked about how work-life balance looked like, and it made me think about how I view work-life balance. In the past, I didn't have work-life balance, or when I was studying, studying was was normal, right? It's like how everyone studies. It's okay balance. Didn't do sports per se, but I had social time. I went out, studied, stayed home, family time. Pretty balanced. Then I started to travel a lot as I grew older before I started to work officially, and that was pretty good. I will have sprints of working a lot and then sprints of just traveling because it's a holiday season. Just like in university, you have summer breaks, you have random breaks, so you just travel a lot in that period. And then like winter breaks, and then I started the company. When I started the company, I did travel, but I wasn't traveling for fun. I had not traveled for fun for like 7 years. I traveled only to go to conferences, to speak to people, to network, things like that. Or I traveled to move to a different place, a country for a time period because nearer to my team, nearer to my clients. But never traveled for a holiday. So work-life balance was not balanced at all. It was more like 90% work and 10% rest. For some reason, I could get into relationships very easily, or I could find the right kind of partners quite easily when I was so busy. Don't know how I did that. I think being young helps a lot. And now my work-life balance is a bit of a 50-50, or some days are 50-50, some days I have a bit less work, some days I have a bit more work. So on average, it's a good 50-50. And I like that because it's so for context, right? Like yesterday I had calls in the morning. I had calls all the way to about 2 p.m. Did some work, did my calls, did a few like work stuff. And then I know that yesterday was a day that I had some time. So I decided to go to the museum because there's an exhibition I've been wanting to visit for a while. I also used to go to the museum very, very often, like once a week, once a month, or once every 2 months, at least once a quarter. Usually I go to the museums once a month and just look at the new exhibits, look at what's up and trending, just look at art. Humanity is to appreciate and surround ourselves with art and beauty. And I loved it. I loved every aspect of it. Then I stopped for a while, so now I want to go back to visiting the museums again. There's an exhibition that I'm really interested in. It's Impressionism. And I really enjoy Claude Monet. In fact, on one of the road trips almost 10 years ago with a very dear friend, we did a road trip and we also stopped by Giverny. There was a painting that's not by Claude Monet, but there was a painting that really captured me. I just stood there and stared it felt like forever, but I think it was only maybe 5 to 10 minutes. It was just so beautiful and I wanted to find that painting again. Well, obviously I didn't find it there. I wanted to buy a couple of stuff, but nothing really caught my eye. But I went to the museum and then I went to the other exhibits as well. Met 2 docents and I met a docent as well. She took me around the Singapore galleries. I used to go there a lot, but they just changed the exhibitions about 7 months ago. So it was very nice to see all these new pieces. and it's beautiful. It's also good to know these up and coming, or like these artists that are still alive and in Singapore. It's more like second generation. And I made friends with her. We're actually going to get coffee next week, and I want to understand a little bit more about finding artists, working with artists, because I want to get a couple more art in my house. And I realized I don't want to get like a reprint of Monet, because that was an option I was thinking about for a long time. But I did not want that. I didn't want it to be printed on canvas. I'm okay with prints, but I don't want oil prints. I'm fine with like abstract art prints, or I do have one print, and it's by Autistic Kids, and an Autistic Kid. I bought it from a place that was supporting people with disabilities, and really cute stuff. So obviously they need to be prints. So I think they only had 120 copies of the prints, so I bought one, and it's really pretty. Anyway, it made me think about work-life balance, because the docent at the end, we spend a good amount of time together going to 3 different galleries, ask her lots of questions, and then she used to be a curator. Very, very cool stuff. She seems to have a really cool life. She worked very closely with artists. She knows them. She meets them, and very different kind of life. And I think that, and then she's like, I was asking her questions, and she's like, okay, why don't we get some coffee? Can share a bit more. And then she asked, oh, do you work? Do you work, or do you not have to work? Because it was on a random, it was like 5 p.m. on a random Wednesday. Then I said, oh, I have to work. I have my own company, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, very cool. Then it made me think about work-life balance, because I get to run my own company and work with the clients that are international. I don't have to do a 9 to 5. I never actually really understood doing a 9 to 5, except when I was much younger, and that was not a proper career. There was more of working in other firms just to understand how they work, so that I can apply the principles or not apply principles in my company. And because I run my own company, I have this work-life balance. More like I get to choose how I want to spend my time. So there are absolutely days that I will be working to 6 a.m. and then I have like an 7 or 8 a.m. call. That was not cool. But there are days. These are the trade-offs you make so that you can go to the museum at 5 p.m. So that was all fine. It made me think about what kind of work-life balance I want moving forward. In fact, I considered shifting completely away from this industry that I'm in. What if I go into art? What if I go into fashion? What if I do something different? And I know it's a bit silly, because that doesn't really scale. That doesn't scale at all. But I really like the idea of every 10 years, you pivot to something new and you hone a new skill set. Ideally 20 years. I think 10 years is also fine. Maybe what I can do is every 20 years there's a big theme, right? So in this 20 years, it's tech. The first 10 years, which is coming up soon, it's all about blockchain tokens. The next 20 years, the next 10 years I want to focus on will be around fintech, agentic fintech, supported by blockchain and tokens, but its application and use case are all in the payments, finance, fintech space. So I think that's what I want to do for the next 10 years. I don't want to define my life and put myself in a box, which is fascinating to say, because I do enjoy putting myself in a box. But I don't want to put myself in a box. I do want to open things up. I want to go and see, experience, find out what options are on the table. Options are always on the table, always on the table. So just go figure out what I want to do, what I enjoy. Right now, I still enjoy the payments fintech space very much. And in fact, I do want to do a deep dive into that. I know payments is not the sexy thing anymore, but adding agents in there is very interesting to see how money moves. And I do have a post-it note on the table. I want to understand the correlation between the money supply, and productivity, efficiency, and value creation in the economy. Payments is one of the areas to go into, because I can go back to doing research again. Really enjoy that. So that's that. And I think for work-life balance, I think 50-50 is never possible. I think on average 50-50, but some days 60, some days 40 for leisure is pretty good. Which means there'll be days that I will be going to the museum, and there'll be days I'll be working to 6 a.m. and that's completely fine. That's just balance. I also bought a museum membership, which encourages me to go to the museum a bit more often and look at the different exhibits. I think I'll do, yeah, my goal for 2026 is to go to more museums and just to surround myself with art. You know, once a month, go and surround myself with art. Once a month, still have dinner parties and have amazing friends coming over and having great chats and just live life. Alright, my vacuum is coming, so it's gonna be noisy, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!